I've been juggling the Galaxy Z Flip 5 for about 4 months now, and here's exactly what I think of this phone, especially after the honeymoon phase has been long gone. And by the way, thanks to Samsung's pretty good deals that are going on right now, you can get this phone for as low as $270, or with a trade-in, by the way. And if you go through a carrier, you can potentially get this phone for free. So those are pretty good deals if you ask me. I'll leave some links down below in the description as well as in the pinned comment if you're interested. So the first thing I want to cover is this cover display, right? It's nothing new. It's been around 4 months now, but you know, when this thing first came out, yeah, you could use things like Netflix on the cover display. But in my earlier review videos, I told you guys my opinion on it, and I said, who would use Netflix on a display this small? But I get it now. I totally understand, because just a few days ago, I was at my yearly doctor's appointment for my eyes, getting my eye health checked. Everything's cool. I was using this to watch Netflix while waiting in the waiting area. I had my headphones plugged in. I was just watching Netflix. It's just so comfortable because it kind of just fits in the palm of your hand, and you're not really distracting anyone around you. You're just kind of holding it like this. I mean, from this angle, it doesn't even look like I'm holding a phone to you guys, right? So I'm just holding the phone, looking like watching a little bit of Netflix, waiting for my name to be called up. So in those instances, it becomes less of a gimmick and something that's like, oh, that's pretty cool when you do that. But the question is, how often do you do that? But then again, in those rare instances, it's actually quite comfortable, especially like if you're maybe in an Uber, maybe in some public transport. It's pretty cool. Another really awesome bonus of the cover display that I still love 4 months later is taking selfies. That's one of the things that I miss about this phone when using other phones in my rotation. It's just so satisfying using the cover display along with the actual main rear cameras to take a selfie, and you don't need to click any buttons to take a selfie, because as you guys know, whenever you click a button, it introduces little micro jutters to the phone. What I like to do is I just show my hand and it takes a picture for me. I mean, that's just so cool. I don't need to press any buttons. I can hold the phone very still with my hand, show my hand, and then the phone will take a photo. That's it. No other hands, buttons required. Well, I mean, no other hands required, as if we have 3 hands, right? Well, maybe someone out there has 3 hands, you know? No, I'm not judging. Taking selfies using the rear cameras and the cover display is so just convenient. It's so good. There's no reason to actually use the selfie camera for actual taking selfies. I mean, yeah, for things like Instagram stories, Snapchat, the selfie camera is kind of the thing that you need, because you need to open the phone to use those applications. But as far as taking actual photos goes, I'm always using the cover display and the rear cameras. It's just so comfortable. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the performance. How has it been 4 months later? Well, it's a Samsung and it's running the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 with 8GB of RAM. So performance has been fine, and it is not a slouch. This phone runs just as well as it did the day it came out. I absolutely love Snapdragon chips, but not just because of the performance, but also because of the battery life and the efficiency. This phone doesn't really get hot ever. I've used it outside during summer, summer, you know, as hot as it can get when the phone was released. I'm in North Carolina, so it only recently got chilly outside, right? The phone just doesn't get hot. Even when quick charging, the phone doesn't get hot. So the efficiency is super good with these newer Snapdragon chips. And the same can be said about the battery life. I'm getting around 5.5 hours. Sometimes if I'm lucky, I'm peaking at around 6 hours, which is pretty good considering this phone, well, is a folding phone, and it's hilariously thin. I mean, this is actually almost, in my opinion, too thin. Samsung, make it a little bit thicker. Like, I feel, you know, just odd using it like this, you know, like without a case. It just feels like it's gonna slip out of my hands. That's how thin this phone is. It's good in a way that it's not taking up a lot of space in your pockets, especially when it's folded, but just make it a little bit thicker maybe. Moving on to the cameras, they're good, however, they're not flagship level. But what does that even mean, flagship level? Like, what does that mean to the average person? Well, not much. Here are some camera samples from the Z Flip 5, and as you could tell, they're very good. Look, if you're a pro-level photographer or someone that knows what to look for, you're going to find flaws, okay? There's no way around that. But if you're the average person looking at these photos, you might think they look amazing, and, well, you would be correct. Most people that take photos do so on a whim. You know, maybe at your kid's football game, maybe you see some nice street architecture and you want to take a photo, or maybe you're at a restaurant and you want to tease your friends about how good your food looks, so you take a picture. Again, if you're a pro-level photographer, well, obviously this camera system is not going to be for you, but if you're the average person, it's super good. It's good enough. I mean, I like it, you know, so there's that. Now, durability is a concern for people that are looking into maybe buying a folding or flipping phone, but from what I can tell, my phone is pretty much in flawless condition. Now, the only protection that my phone has is an actual screen protector, which I always recommend. They're like $6. You know, go buy it, please, if you're spending $1,000 on a phone. The least you could do is buy a $6 screen protector and save yourself a lot of troubles later on down the road. But the actual body of the phone, the hinge, it's all flawless, and most importantly, the inside display is pretty much flawless as well. Now, a lot of haters were saying that, oh, just wait until this phone's about 6 months old, you're gonna see the screen start to peel up. Well, the phone's 4 months old already, and the screen is basically flawless. So whatever Samsung did, I guess they did improve it, because that's what they said they did. They added some newer and better adhesive. It's doing fine. It seems like now is like the better time to buy a folding or flipping phone, especially from Samsung, because, well, like I said, the better screen adhesion that is going on, as well as the IP rating, so you can kind of dunk this phone underwater and it'll survive, which is actually mind-blowing because, well, there's a lot of moving components in this phone, and it's pretty crazy that water won't really harm your phone. Don't go out and try it, please, but, you know, in the off chance you accidentally drop it, well, at least you have a little peace of mind knowing that it's going to be okay. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is the pricing. Look, I can't lie. At $999, basically $1,000, this phone is expensive, right? But the only real benefit of buying this phone is just because it's small when it's closed. It doesn't take up much space. So maybe, you know, if you have a purse, you know, some of those little small purses that only hold like a stick of gum. Hey, ladies, why do you buy that? Like, what's the point? What do you fit in there, you know? But this phone could probably fit in those little teeny tiny purses, so that's a big bonus, especially if you don't like to carry your phone in your pocket. But that's it. That's the only benefit from this phone, is that it just folds into a square. Is that worth $1,000? Well, that's up to you to decide, but for me, I don't think so. But like I said in the beginning of the video, Samsung has great deals going on right now. I don't know how long they're gonna last, but if you could get this phone for around $600 or less, if you trade in the phone, right? I would say at that point, it makes a lot more sense, because you're still getting that kind of cool form factor that it folds, but you're also not paying $1,000 for it, right? But the cameras are great, the speakers are great, it's efficient, the battery life is good, so you're getting all that for, like I said, $600 or even lower if you can get it lower with your trade-in. Then I would say this is a pretty good purchase. Now, the one thing I want Samsung to improve on the next generation of this phone is to put an LTPO screen on the cover display, right? So it goes from 1 Hz all the way up to 120 Hertz. When they do that, it'll even further increase battery life, so it'll go from like the 5 to 6 that I'm getting now to possibly even more in the future. And of course, if it's gonna have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 inside, well, it's gonna be even better, right? That's what I want them to improve on, is the cover display. Another thing I want them to improve on is the inside display, but the reflectivity of it. This phone is just really reflective, and that's kind of one of my downsides, but its saving grace is that it's very bright. Like, when you go outside and you use this phone, it's very bright, but as you guys can tell, it's basically a mirror. Like, it is super reflective. And you know, with phones like the OnePlus Open, that phone has an anti-glare screen protector that's installed from the factory, and it looks so much better. So to recap my experience with the Galaxy Z Flip 5, it's been fantastic. There's not really any downsides to this phone other than the price, but like I said, those deals do exist. So taking those deals into account, this phone is fantastic. Great camera, great software, very good software I might add, and Samsung has been on top of their game with releasing monthly updates. I mean, they are champs. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, click that like button. It's absolutely free to you, right? You don't gotta pay any money for clicking that like button, but it helps me and the channel out a lot, and I always truly appreciate it. And if you guys are new here and you like these kind of laid back reviews, definitely subscribe. This was Mark from Mark's Tech. Adios.